Have you ever stood up from a chair and felt your knees tremble just a little? Have you noticed how something as simple as walking up the stairs suddenly feels heavier, slower, harder? Or how your legs, once full of life and strength, now feel like they're holding someone else's body? I've heard so many of my patients say the same thing. Doctor, I still feel young inside, but my legs don't listen to me anymore. And every time I hear that, I see the fear behind their smile, the silent fear of losing independence, of one day not being able to stand without help. You see, I'm a doctor, but I'm also a son, and I've watched that fear grow in someone I love, my mother. When my mother turned 68, she started avoiding the stairs in our home. It's just the joints, she used to say, but I could see the truth in her eyes. Her once confident steps became cautious. Her balance wasn't the same. She stopped going out for walks. And that's when I noticed what so many older adults go through: silently gradual leg weakness, the slow, invisible theft of strength. It doesn't come with pain at first, it comes with hesitation. And that hesitation leads to fear, and fear leads to immobility. I remember one evening when she tried to reach for a jar on the top shelf and almost fell. I caught her hand just in time. And for a moment, we both stood there silently, her breathing fast, my heart pounding. She smiled weakly and said, "I'm fine." But I knew that wasn't true. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my desk, reading medical journals, trying to understand why even healthy older adults lose leg strength so quickly. The answer, I discovered, wasn't just aging, it was deficiency. A very specific deficiency. Most people think muscle loss happens because we stop exercising or because our joints wear out. That's partly true. But inside the muscle cells, something deeper happens with age. Your mitochondria, the little powerhouses that give your muscles energy, begin to slow down. Protein synthesis drops. Nerves that connect to your leg muscles start weakening. And the critical cofactor that supports all these processes, vitamin D, starts disappearing from your bloodstream. You see, vitamin D isn't just about bones, it's the ignition key for your muscles. Without it, your legs can't fire properly. A few years ago, Japanese researchers conducted a groundbreaking study on older adults with leg weakness. They discovered that restoring vitamin D levels in the blood didn't just strengthen bones, it dramatically improved leg strength, balance, and even reduced the risk of falls by over 40%. They found something even more remarkable. Vitamin D actually activates genes inside muscle fibers that rebuild and repair them, especially in the quadriceps and calves. Imagine that a simple vitamin turning weak, trembling legs into strong, stable pillars again. I remember calling one of my colleagues in Tokyo, Dr. Aoki, who was part of the study group. I asked him what dose worked best. He said, "Doctor, the magic happens when the body reaches optimal serum levels. Most people over 60 are far below that." His voice was calm, confident. We found that supplementing with the right form of vitamin D, D3, not D2, along with magnesium for absorption, changed everything. That one call changed the way I approached my patients from that day forward. I went back to my mother and ran a simple test. Her vitamin D levels were shockingly low. I prescribed her a medically approved dose of D3, 2000 IU daily, along with magnesium glycinate to help absorption. I also encouraged her to take small morning walks in sunlight, just 15 minutes a day. It wasn't about exercise, it was about awakening her muscles again. And something incredible happened. After just 3 weeks, I noticed her getting up from the chair faster. Her steps became firmer, she laughed more. "I don't feel scared anymore," she told me one morning while watering her plants. I smiled, but I knew it wasn't just emotional, it was physiological. Vitamin D was repairing her from the inside. It was turning her legs back on, one muscle fiber at a time. This experience changed the way I saw medicine. For years, we've been trained to focus on diseases, arthritis, osteoporosis, neuropathy. But sometimes what truly steals your strength isn't a disease, it's neglect. Neglect of something as basic as sunlight and nutrients. I began testing all my patients over 60 for vitamin D deficiency, and what I found was shocking. Almost 8 out of 10 had dangerously low levels. Some were even taking calcium supplements. But without vitamin D, calcium is useless. It just sits in the bloodstream, unable to reach the bones or muscles where it's needed. There was one patient who touched me deeply. His name was Khalid, a retired school principal. When he first came to me, he was 72 and could barely stand. For more than a minute. "Doctor," he said softly, "I used to walk miles with my students. Now I can't even cross the street." His voice cracked when he said it. I ran his blood work, and again, vitamin D was critically low. I started him on the same combination D3 with magnesium and a small dose of vitamin K2 to help channel calcium into the bones instead of arteries. 2 months later, he walked into my clinic, not limping, not with a cane, but walking proudly, holding a small box of sweets. He smiled and said, "Doctor, I can walk to the park again. My legs don't shake anymore." I will never forget that moment because in his eyes, I saw something I see too rarely in older patients' hope. You see, when your legs lose strength, your world becomes smaller. You stop exploring, you stop moving, and slowly you stop living. But when strength returns even a little, it's like life itself returns. And the power of that change often comes from something as small and overlooked as a vitamin. Over the next few months, I began documenting every case. One patient after another showed similar improvements, better balance, improved mood, fewer night cramps, even sharper reflexes. That's when I realized how deep the connection goes. Vitamin D not only strengthens the muscles, it also supports nerve function, improves coordination, and even enhances testosterone levels in older men, helping maintain lean mass and vitality. It's like a switch for the entire musculoskeletal system. But here's the sad truth. Most people over 60 don't even know they're deficient. They spend more time indoors, avoid sunlight, and often take medications that block vitamin D absorption. And the problem isn't limited to those who are sedentary. Even active seniors can suffer from muscle fatigue if their vitamin D levels are low. I've seen athletes over 60 who suddenly start losing endurance for no visible reason, and every single time the missing factor is the same. I often tell my patients that aging isn't the problem. Deficiency is. The human body is designed to last. Your muscles don't just give up. They wait for you to feed them what they've been starving for. Vitamin D is not just a nutrient, it's communication between your brain and your muscles. When levels drop, that communication breaks down and your legs stop responding the way they should. But when you restore that connection, the body begins to remember its strength again. I'll never forget the day my mother went back to her morning prayers, sitting and standing with ease, no pain, no hesitation. She looked at me and said, "I feel young again." That one sentence was worth more than any medical award. Because as doctors, we chase cures, but what people truly want is restoration, the feeling of being themselves again. In the months that followed, I continued to study Japanese research on longevity and muscle regeneration. They had a term ashibuto, meaning strong legs, strong life. In their culture, leg strength is seen as the foundation of aging gracefully. They believe that your legs are your second heart, pumping blood, stabilizing posture, and symbolizing independence. When your legs are strong, your life remains open. When they weaken, your world begins to close. And that's what I tell everyone now. If you're over 60 and want to stay independent, start by strengthening your legs. And the first step to that strength isn't the gym, it's nutrition. Vitamin D3, magnesium, and sunlight. Those three together are the foundation. Exercise will follow naturally once your muscles wake up again. That night, after my mother went to bed, I looked at her walking stick leaning quietly in the corner. She hadn't used it in weeks. I smiled to myself and whispered, "Thank you, science." Because sometimes medicine isn't about discovering something new, it's about rediscovering what we've ignored for too long. But the story doesn't end there, because what happened next surprised even me. As her strength returned, something else started changing in her. Her mood, her energy, her sleep. I began to realize that this muscle vitamin was doing far more than just repairing legs. It was rebuilding her spirit. And that led me to uncover another side of vitamin D that most doctors overlook, its powerful connection to brain chemistry and hormones. That discovery changed everything. Have you ever noticed how strength doesn't just come from the body, it comes from the mind? I've seen people who are physically weak still stand tall because of their spirit, and others who seem strong crumble the moment they lose hope. But what if I told you the mind and the muscles are more connected than most people realize, that your leg strength, your balance, even your emotional resilience are all tied to one powerful molecule? And that molecule is vitamin D. When my mother's legs began to regain strength, something else changed in her. Her laughter returned, her memory sharpened, her mornings became lighter. She started talking about planting flowers again, things she hadn't mentioned in years. As a doctor, I was thrilled to see her muscles responding, but as a son, I was witnessing something deeper. I was watching her spirit heal. And that's when I realized something that every doctor should remember. When you fix the body from inside, you often fix the soul too. It made me curious. Could vitamin D actually be influencing mood and brain health, not just muscle strength? I started digging through medical journals late into the night, and what I found was astonishing. Multiple studies, especially from Japan and Finland, revealed that vitamin D receptors are not only found in muscles and bones, but also in the brain, particularly in regions that regulate mood and coordination. Low vitamin D levels are directly linked to depression, fatigue, brain fog, and even loss of balance. It's as if this one vitamin acts like a bridge between the body and the mind, keeping your legs firm and your emotions steady. I remember calling my mentor, Dr. Kenji Sato, a neurologist I deeply respect. I told him about my observations that my elderly patients not only walked better, but seemed happier after vitamin D therapy. He laughed softly and said, "You've discovered what we've known in Japan for decades. When the legs regain strength, the mind follows. We call it Shin Karada, no Ketsugo, the unity of mind and body." That phrase stayed with me. There was one patient, a 64-year-old woman named Ruxana, who perfectly embodied this truth. When she first came to my clinic, she used to say, "Doctor, my legs don't hurt, they just don't trust me anymore." It broke my heart. That's the silent pain older adults carry, not just weakness, but loss of confidence. She had been diagnosed with early-stage sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss. Her tests showed a vitamin D level so low it was almost undetectable. I started her on D3 with magnesium, advised light stretching, and encouraged her to spend at least 20 minutes in morning sunlight daily. At first, nothing seemed to change. She messaged me after 2 weeks. "Still no difference," I told her gently. "Trust your body, healing takes time." Then on the 28th day, I received a voice note. Her voice was trembling not from weakness, but from joy. "Doctor," she said, "I walked to the corner store today without holding the wall." For the first time in months, that moment reminded me of something my father once told me. Strength is the first step to dignity. And he was right. When people lose leg strength, they lose independence. But when they regain it, they regain themselves. Over the next few months, I began focusing deeply on what I called neuromuscular nutrition, supporting both the nerves and muscles simultaneously. I learned that vitamin D not only helps absorb calcium, but also enhances the transmission of nerve impulses to the muscles. It sharpens the brain to leg connection. That's why many older adults who restore their vitamin D levels often say, "My legs respond faster now." It's not imagination, it's real neurophysiology. One morning, I sat with my mother at breakfast. She smiled and said, "You know, my legs feel younger, but my mind feels even younger." I looked at her, surprised. "What do you mean?" She said, "I'm not scared to walk anymore. I feel like I can do anything again." And that sentence hit me. Fear had left her body. Because fear often begins when the body starts to fail. Once strength returns, confidence follows. That day, I started adding another layer of treatment, combining vitamin D with omega-3 fatty acids and B12 for nerve health. This trio, when used together, creates what I call the stability triangle. It supports muscle fibers, nerve conduction, and emotional balance all at once. And the results were beyond my expectations. My older patients began reporting fewer falls, deeper sleep, even improved focus. It wasn't a miracle, it was biology responding to nourishment. One patient I'll never forget was Arif, a 70-year-old man who used to be an athlete. When he first came in, he told me quietly, "Doctor, my legs feel like they belong to someone else." That line stayed with me. His vitamin D was low, but what truly concerned me was his spirit. He had stopped believing his body could improve. I gave him the same protocol D3, magnesium, and light strength exercises. After 6 weeks, he walked into my office with tears in his eyes. "Doctor," he said, "I jogged for 2 minutes today. 2 minutes. You gave me my body back." I didn't give him anything magical. His body did all the work. I only gave it the signal it was waiting for. And that's the part most people don't understand. Your body doesn't lose its ability to heal with age. It loses communication. Nutrients like vitamin D are the language it uses to talk to itself. When you restore that language, even at 70, the body listens. But here's something most people don't realize. Your legs are your lifeline. They determine your independence, your circulation, your metabolism. When your leg muscles weaken, blood flow slows down. Your heart works harder. Your brain receives less oxygen. Over time, this triggers a cascade fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, and even digestive issues. But when you strengthen your legs, everything improves from heart health to brain clarity. That's why Japanese doctors often say the secret to longevity lies below your waist. I saw this truth again with my mother. As her legs grew stronger, her entire physiology began to shift. Her appetite improved, her sleep normalized, and her posture straightened. She began waking up early again, something she hadn't done in years. It wasn't just vitamin D, it was the chain reaction it started. When your muscles become active again, they release myokines, healing molecules that rejuvenate the body from head to toe. That's why movement and nutrition together are so powerful. One wakes the other. I often think about how many lives could change if every person over 60 simply checked their vitamin D levels. It's a small test, but it can predict so much. Weakness, balance problems, even falls can often be traced back to deficiency. And yet, it's one of the most overlooked parts of modern medicine. We chase complex diseases, but sometimes the simplest molecule holds the biggest key. A few months later, I got a call from Dr. Aoki again. "How's your mother?" he asked. I smiled. "Stronger than me." He laughed. Then we did something right. I thanked him for sharing his research and told him how it changed my practice. He said something I'll never forget. "When you think for food, restore a person's legs, you restore their freedom." He was right, because strength isn't measured by muscles, it's measured by movement. The ability to get up, to walk, to live without fear. That's true health. And every time I see one of my elderly patients stand up from the chair on their own, I silently thank vitamin D. Aging is inevitable, but weakness isn't. I've seen 6 5-year-olds regain the vitality of 40, not through miracle drugs, but through simple, consistent nourishment. A scoop of D3, a little magnesium, sunlight on your skin, and a few gentle stretches. That's the real fountain of youth, not something you find in a bottle, but something you awaken within yourself. Sometimes I think of that first night I caught my mother's hand before she fell, the fear in her eyes. And now, when I watch her walk confidently across the garden, I see the opposite peace. That's what strength gives you, peace. So if you're over 60 and you've noticed your legs slowing down, don't wait for weakness to define you. Don't let fear take root. Check your vitamin D levels, nourish your muscles, give your body the message it's been waiting for. Because inside you, there's still strength. It's not gone, it's just sleeping. And sometimes all it needs is a little sunlight and the right vitamin to wake it up again. And when that happens, you won't just walk stronger, you'll live stronger.